The homeless woman's fingers trembled as she counted the coins for the third time, still 40 cents short of a cup of soup. Marcus watched from behind the diner's steamy kitchen window, his own stomach growling as he plated the last meal he could afford to eat that day. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to smash that subscribe button, because tomorrow we have another heartwarming tale that will restore your faith in humanity. The late October, rain hammered against the windows of Mickey's Diner, a forgotten corner restaurant wedged between shuttered shops on Chicago's South Side. Marcus Lawson wiped the sweat from his forehead with a sauce-stained towel, his hands moving on autopilot as he scraped the grill clean. 6 years in this kitchen, 6 years of burns and cuts and 12-hour shifts, and tonight, it all felt heavier than usual. His phone buzzed on the counter. Another text from his daughter's school. Reminder, field trip payment due Monday, 45. He stared at the message until the screen went dark. After paying rent and buying Sophia's asthma medication, he had exactly $12 to his name. $12 to last 4 more days until payday. The bell above the door chimed, cutting through his thoughts. Marcus glanced through the service window and saw her, a woman in her late 50s, blonde hair plastered to her head from the rain, designer clothes that had seen better days now clinging to her thin frame. She moved to the counter with the careful steps of someone trying not to draw attention, clutching a handful of coins. "Just a cup of soup, please," she said to Jenny, the night waitress. Her voice carried the ghost of refinement, like crystal wrapped in newspaper. Jenny rang it up. "That'll be $2.45. The woman spread her coins on the counter, separating quarters from dimes with shaking fingers. Marcus watched her count once, twice, then a third time. Her shoulders sagged. I only have $2.05. Could I maybe just get some crackers?" Something twisted in Marcus's chest. He recognized that look, the careful dignity of someone who'd fallen far and was still falling. He'd worn that same expression 2 years ago when illness took his wife and medical bills took everything else. Without thinking, he grabbed the plate he'd just made for himself, a burger with the works, fries still steaming, the free meal that was supposed to be his dinner and tomorrow's breakfast combined. He pushed through the swinging kitchen door. "Jenny, hold up," he called out, setting the plate in front of the woman. "Kitchen made an extra by mistake. Can't let it go to waste." The woman looked up at him, and for a moment, Marcus saw something flicker in her green eyes. Recognition? No, that was impossible. They'd never met. But there was something there, a depth of understanding that made him look away first. "I couldn't," she said softly. "You should save it for another customer. Tuesday night in this weather?" Marcus forced a smile. "You'd be doing me a favor. Boss hates waste more than anything." Jenny shot him a look that said she knew exactly what he was doing. This wasn't a mistake, and they both knew the boss, who hadn't set foot in the place in months, couldn't care less about one burger. But she kept quiet, turning back to wipe down already clean counters. The woman's hand hovered over the plate. "Are you certain?" "Absolutely." Marcus was already backing toward the kitchen. "Enjoy your meal, ma'am." He disappeared behind the swinging door before she could protest further, before his growling stomach could change his mind. Through the service window, he watched her take the first bite, saw her eyes close as if she'd forgotten food could taste like comfort. The rain intensified, drumming against the roof like impatient fingers. Marcus busied himself with prep work he'd already finished, trying not to think about the long walk home in wet shoes with holes in the soles, trying not to calculate how many peanut butter sandwiches $12 could stretch into. His phone buzzed again. Sophia. "Dad, did you see about the field trip? Everyone else already paid." He typed back with greasy fingers. "Working on it, baby girl. Don't worry." Through the window, the woman was eating slowly, savoring each bite. She'd unwrapped the napkin from the silverware and spread it across her lap with practiced elegance. Everything about her spoke of someone who'd known better times, the way she held her fork, the straight line of her back, despite exhaustion, the careful way she dabbed at her lips between bites. Marcus turned away. He'd learned not to create stories for the people who passed through the diner. Everyone had their reasons for ending up where they were. His own fall from owning a small catering business to manning someone else's grill had taught him that much. One day you're planning expansion, the next you're selling everything to pay for chemo treatments that don't work. The kitchen timer buzzed, pulling him back. He had pies to prep for the morning rush, assuming the ancient oven held together another day. As he worked, he caught glimpses of the woman through the window. She'd finished the burger and was working through the fries one at a time, as if rationing them. When she finally stood to leave, Marcus noticed her slip something under the plate. Probably the coins she'd counted out so carefully. Pride was often the last thing people had left. The bell chimed her exit into the storm. Jenny grabbed the plate, then held up what the woman had left, not coins, but a business card. She squinted at it. Then her eyes went wide. "Marcus, you need to see this." He wiped his hands and took the card. Expensive stock, minimalist design, Victoria Sterling, Chief Executive Officer, American National Bank. Below it, handwritten in pen, "Thank you for reminding me that kindness still exists." Marcus stared at the card. American National, everyone knew that name. The biggest bank in the country, the one whose logo topped half the skyscrapers downtown. And Victoria Sterling, the legendary CEO who'd built it from a regional lender into a financial empire. The woman whose face graced Fortune covers and whose net worth topped most small nations. That was her, Jenny whispered. What was she doing here? Like that? Marcus pocketed the card, mind spinning. It had to be a mistake, a coincidence. Maybe someone who looked like her or shared the name, because what would one of the richest women in America be doing counting coins in a rundown diner? But he remembered those green eyes, that flicker of something deeper, the way she'd held herself even in worn clothes. The practiced elegance that seemed built into her bones. "Don't mention this to anyone," he told Jenny. "Whatever her story is, it's hers to tell." Jenny nodded, still staring at the door. "That burger was your dinner, wasn't it?" Marcus shrugged, already heading back to the kitchen. "I'll grab something at home." There was nothing at home but peanut butter and the heels of a bread loaf. But Jenny didn't need to know that. He had 3 more hours on his shift. 3 more hours to not think about the growing hole in his stomach, or the woman who might or might not be worth billions eating the last meal he could afford. The rain kept falling, washing the city clean of another day's sins and sorrows. In the kitchen of Mickey's Diner, Marcus Lawson scraped and stirred and tried not to hope that kindness might sometimes echo back when you needed it most. The next morning arrived wrapped in frost. Chicago's first real taste of winter. Marcus walked Sophia to school, her small hand warm in his, her constant chatter about her best friend's birthday party filling the space between them. She didn't mention the field trip, but he saw her glance at the permission slip taped to her teacher's door as they passed. "Have a good day, baby girl," he said, kissing the top of her head. "You too, Daddy. Don't work too hard." If only she knew that not working hard wasn't an option. He had the lunch shift at Mickey's, then 4 hours at his second job stocking shelves at a grocery store, 60-hour weeks just to keep them afloat, and still barely managing that. Mickey's was already buzzing when he arrived. The morning crew was finishing up, and Denise, the day manager, was counting the register with her usual frown. "Marcus," she called out, "someone left this for you." She handed him an envelope, expensive cream paper with his name written in careful script. Inside was a note. "Mr. Lawson, I would like to thank you properly for your kindness last evening. If you're willing, please come to the American National Building, 40th floor, at 2 p.m. today. Ask for me at reception, Victoria Sterling." Marcus read it twice, then checked his watch. His shift ended at 1:30. He could make it if he skipped his break and caught the express bus. But what could she possibly want? To pay him back for a burger? Rich people had done stranger things, he supposed. "Everything okay?" Denise asked, eyeing the fancy stationery. "Yeah, just family stuff," Marcus lied, tucking the note away. The lunch rush passed in a blur of orders and heat. Every time the bell chimed, he looked up, half expecting to see her again. But only the usual crowd shuffled through: construction workers, office temps, people stretching dollars as thin as hope. At 1:30 sharp, he hung up his apron and caught Denise. "I need to skip the grocery store today. Emergency with Sophia's school." She sighed, but nodded. "Don't make it a habit, Marcus. You know how tight things are." He knew. God, how he knew. The bus ride downtown felt like crossing into another world. The buildings grew taller, the suits sharper, the very air seeming to cost more with each block. The American National Building pierced the sky like a glass needle. Its lobby all marble and minimalism. Marcus felt every eye on him as he crossed to reception, acutely aware of his stained work clothes and worn shoes. The security guard looked him up and down with professional skepticism. "I'm here to see Victoria Sterling," Marcus said, trying to sound like he belonged. "She asked me to come." The guard's expression shifted from skepticism to outright disbelief. Right, and I'm here to see the Pope. Move along, buddy. Please, just call up. Tell her Marcus Lawson is here. Listen, I don't know what scam you're running. Is there a problem here? The voice cut through the lobby like silk over steel. Victoria Sterling stood by the executive elevators, today in a perfectly tailored navy suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in 6 months. But her eyes, those same green eyes from the night before, held a warmth that transformed her face. Miss Sterling! The guard straightened like he'd been shot. This gentleman claims. Mr. Lawson is my guest, she said simply. Thank you for your vigilance, Thomas. She walked over, her heels clicking with metronomic precision on the marble. Up close, Marcus could see the careful makeup covering what looked like sleepless nights, the kind of tired that lived in your bones. Thank you for coming, she said, extending her hand. I wasn't sure you would. Marcus shook it, trying not to think about the grease, probably still under his fingernails. I wasn't sure it was real. A smile ghosted across her face. Reality has been negotiable lately, shall we? The elevator rose in silence. Marcus, watching the city shrink below them. When the doors opened on the 40th floor, he stepped into a world of hushed efficiency and panoramic views. Victoria's office occupied a corner, the lake spreading out like blue silk to the horizon. Please, sit. She gestured to leather chairs that looked more expensive than his car had been, back when he'd had a car. Can I offer you anything? Coffee? Water? I'm fine, thanks. Marcus perched on the edge of the chair, feeling like he might leave stains just by existing in this space. Victoria sat across from him, and for a moment, the CEO mask slipped. She looked tired, human, like the woman counting coins in the rain. I owe you an explanation, she began. Last night, that wasn't supposed to be my life. But life has a way of humbling us when we forget what matters. She stood, moving to the window. The afternoon sun caught her hair, turning it to gold. 6 months ago, I had everything. This job, a penthouse, charity galas every weekend. I was untouchable, or so I thought. Her voice grew quieter. Then my son died. Overdose. He'd been struggling for years, but I was too busy building empires to notice how bad it had gotten. Marcus's chest tightened. I'm sorry. I threw myself into work even harder. If I couldn't save him, maybe I could save the bank's quarterly projections. But grief doesn't care about your schedule. I started making mistakes, bad investments, risky decisions. The board covered for me at first professional courtesy, but when I showed up to a shareholders meeting, obviously intoxicated, they'd had enough. She turned back to face him. They gave me a choice: take a leave of absence and get help, or be removed permanently. I chose pride. Walked out with nothing but what I was wearing. They froze my assets, pending a psychological evaluation. Said it was for my own good. Corporate speak for, we think you've lost it. So last night I'd been living in my car for 2 weeks. Sold my jewelry for gas money. Then the car when that ran out. Funny how quickly you can fall when you've burned every bridge building your climb. She laughed, but it was brittle. I still had too much pride to call my sister, too much shame to reach out to friends. So, I've been walking the city, sleeping in shelters when they had space, learning what hunger really feels like. Marcus thought of his own fall, how fast catering business owner had become line cook, how medical bills could eat a life savings like acid. I'm sorry, I know how it feels to lose everything. But you didn't, Victoria said, sitting back down. You have something I lost along the way. When you gave me that burger, you were giving me your own dinner, weren't you? Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable with the scrutiny. It was just food. No, her voice was firm. It was kindness without calculation. You didn't know who I was, didn't expect anything in return. You just saw someone who needed help and helped, even though you clearly needed it yourself. She opened a desk drawer and pulled out a folder. I spent all morning learning about you, Marcus Lawson, former business owner, widower, single father. Working 2 jobs to support a daughter with chronic asthma, behind on rent, behind on bills, but never behind on being a father. Marcus stiffened. You investigated me? I wanted to understand the kind of man who would give away his last meal. She leaned forward. And I wanted to find a way to thank you that wouldn't insult what you did. Because throwing money at kindness cheapens it, don't you think? I know you don't need, Victoria interrupted gently. But maybe you could use There's a position opening in our community development division. We're launching a program to help small restaurant owners, people like you used to be, get funding and support. I need someone to run it who understands both sides, who knows what it's like to build something and lose it. What happens next will change both their lives forever, but neither of them knows it yet. If you're enjoying this story of unexpected kindness and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe for more. Marcus stared at her, his mind struggling to process the offer. You're offering me a job because I gave you a burger? I'm offering you a job because in my darkest moment, you showed me that decency still exists. Because you have experience I need. And yes, because the universe owes you some kindness in return. Victoria's smile was sad but genuine. I've spent my morning in emergency board meetings, convincing them to lift my asset freeze. Turns out, disappearing for 2 weeks and returning with clarity about what actually matters makes an impression. They're giving me another chance, with conditions, but a chance nonetheless. And one of those conditions is hiring me? Marcus couldn't keep the skepticism from his voice. No, hiring you is my choice. My first clear choice in months. She pushed the folder across the desk. The salary and benefits are outlined there. It's substantial enough to cover your daughter's medical needs and then some. But I understand if you need time to think about it. Marcus opened the folder, nearly choked. The salary was more than he'd made in his best year of catering. Full benefits, including comprehensive health coverage for Sophia. Even education assistance. This island, he couldn't finish. Fair compensation for someone with your experience and character, Victoria said firmly. The job won't be easy. You'll be reviewing loan applications, mentoring, struggling restaurant owners, maybe preventing someone else from losing what you lost. Some days, you'll have to say no to people who remind you of yourself. Can you handle that? Marcus thought about Sophia, about field trips and asthma medication, and maybe, just maybe, being able to save for her college. He thought about his wife, how she'd always believed he'd bounce back, find his way again. He thought about last night, the simple act of kindness that had somehow led here. When would I start? Monday, if that works. We'll need to get you oriented, introduce you to the team. Fair warning, some of them won't be happy about an outsider coming in at a senior level. You'll have to prove yourself. I'm used to that, Marcus said quietly. Victoria stood, extending her hand again. Then welcome to American National Bank, Mr. Lawson. I think you're going to help us remember what we're really supposed to be doing here. This time, when they shook hands, Marcus didn't worry about the grease under his fingernails. He was too busy thinking about calling Sophia, about telling her the field trip was covered, about the strange turns life could take. One more thing, Victoria said as he turned to leave. That diner, Mickey's? I'd like to eat there again sometime. Properly. Pay for my meal like a normal customer. It's nothing fancy, Marcus warned. Just good, honest food. Exactly what I need, she replied. What we all need, I think. Reminders of what's real. The elevator ride down felt different than the ride up. The city spreading below looked less hostile, more full of possibility. Marcus still wore his stained work clothes, but something had shifted. Sometimes grace arrived in the strangest packages, a burger freely given, a business card left behind, a second chance offered by someone who understood the weight of falling and the hope of rising again. He had one more shift at Mickey's tonight. Tomorrow he'd give notice, properly and respectfully. Denise wouldn't be happy, but she'd understand. That was the thing about people who lived close to the edge. They knew how to recognize a lifeline when it appeared. His phone buzzed. Sophia, texting from her after-school program. Dad, Sarah's mom is ordering pizza for everyone. She said I could have some too if it's okay. For the first time in months, Marcus typed back without calculating the cost. Of course, baby girl, enjoy. As he waited for the bus back to the south side, Marcus pulled out Victoria's business card, running his thumb over the raised letters. Tomorrow, it would feel real. Tomorrow, he'd wake up and remember this wasn't a dream. But tonight, he had burgers to flip and a daughter to hug and a story to tell her about how sometimes the smallest acts of kindness echoed back in ways you never expected. The bus arrived, and Marcus climbed aboard, leaving the gleaming towers of downtown behind. But he'd be back Monday, walking through those doors, not as a visitor, but as someone who belonged, all because on a rainy Tuesday night, he'd chosen compassion over hunger. giving over keeping. The city rolled past the windows, gray and gritty and achingly beautiful. Somewhere out there, Victoria Sterling was probably in another board meeting, fighting to rebuild what grief had broken, and somewhere further south, a little girl was eating pizza with her friends, unaware that her life had just changed. Marcus smiled, thinking about his wife, how she'd always said his soft heart would be his downfall. Maybe she'd been right, or maybe, just maybe, a soft heart was exactly what a hard world needed. 6 months later, the conference room on the 32nd floor hummed with nervous energy. Marcus stood at the head of the table, reviewing applications from restaurant owners seeking help through the Community Development Initiative. His Team 5 analysts, who'd initially viewed him with skepticism, now looked to him for final decisions on every case. This one, Marcus said, holding up a folder. Maria Gonzalez, family restaurant on the west side. She's 3 months behind on rent, but has a solid business plan for recovery. What's our assessment? Numbers are borderline, said James, one of the younger analysts. Traditional metrics would say no. And non-traditional metrics? Marcus prompted. She's been serving that neighborhood for 15 years. Another analyst, Keisha, chimed in. Has a loyalty program for elderly customers on fixed incomes. Lets them pay what they can afford. Sounds familiar, Marcus murmured, remembering his own practices before everything fell apart. Approve it. Full funding package, plus our mentorship program. I'll take this one personally. A knock at the door interrupted them. Victoria entered, looking healthier than she had 6 months ago. The hollow exhaustion had left her eyes, replaced by something calmer, more centered. Don't mind me, she said, just observing. But Marcus knew better. These drop-ins had become regular, and not just for oversight. Over the months, he'd learned more about her story, the son she'd lost, the empire that had consumed her, the pride that had almost destroyed her. In return, she'd heard about his wife, about building a business on love and food only to watch it crumble under medical debt. They'd become unlikely friends, bound by shared understanding of how quickly life could change and how small kindnesses could alter everything. After the meeting, Victoria lingered. Walk with me? They strolled to the break room, where someone had left a box of donuts. Victoria grabbed one without hesitation, another change from the woman who used to survive on black coffee and ambition. The board is impressed, she said between bites. Your division has approved more loans in 6 months than the previous team did in 2 years, with a lower default rate. We're just looking at different things, Marcus said. Character matters as much as credit scores, sometimes more. Radical thinking for a bank. Victoria smiled. Some of the old guard hate it, but the results speak louder than their complaints. Marcus's phone buzzed. Sophia, sending a picture from her science fair. She'd won second place with a project about air quality and asthma. He showed Victoria, unable to hide his pride. She's brilliant, Victoria said. Takes after her father. She wants to be a doctor now. Help kids with breathing problems. Last year, she wanted to be a chef like me. Marcus laughed. I told her she could be both. Why not? The world needs more people who can do both heal and nourish. They walked back toward the offices, passing the floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the city. The same skyline, but Marcus saw it differently now. Less intimidating, more full of stories, each building containing thousands of people just trying to make it through. I'm going back tonight, Victoria said suddenly. To Mickey's? It's been 6 months. I've been afraid to go back. Afraid it would feel different now that I'm not. She trailed off. Not desperate? Not humbled. She corrected softly. I don't want to lose that feeling, Marcus. The clarity that comes when everything else falls away. You won't, Marcus assured her. It's not the kind of thing you forget. That evening, Mickey's Diner glowed with its usual fluorescent charm. Marcus had come straight from the office, still in his business casual clothes that felt like a costume he was learning to wear. Victoria arrived separately, choosing the same booth where she'd eaten his burger 6 months prior. Jenny was still there, her face lighting up with recognition. Well, look what the cat dragged in. 2 of my favorite customers. Just a regular burger and fries, Victoria said. And I'm paying full price this time. And I'll take the same, Marcus added. My treat tonight. I owe Jenny about 100 free meals from all the time she covered for me. They ate slowly, watching the familiar rhythm of the diner. Construction workers grabbed quick dinners. A young mother fed her toddler, French fries one at a time. An elderly man sat at the counter with his coffee and newspaper, same as every night. I've been thinking, Victoria said, wiping ketchup from her fingers with the thin paper napkins. About expanding the program, not just restaurants, small businesses of all kinds, the ones that hold communities together but can't get traditional funding. That's ambitious, Marcus said carefully. He'd learned Victoria's ambitions could be both blessing and curse, but necessary. I spent so many years focused on big deals, major corporations. I forgot about places like this. She gestured around the diner, the ones that matter to real people living real lives. It would take significant resources. The board will fight me, Victoria grinned. Good. I've gotten too comfortable lately. Besides, I have a secret weapon. What's that? A former catering company owner who understands both sides of the equation, someone who's been there. She met his eyes. If you're willing to help build it. Marcus thought about the stack of applications on his desk, each one representing someone's dream, someone's lifeline. He thought about Maria Gonzalez and the dozen other restaurant owners he'd helped steady their footing. He thought about Sophia, how she'd started volunteering at a food bank on weekends, inspired by his stories of helping others. I'm in, he said simply. Victoria raised her coffee mug. To second chances. Marcus clinked his against hers, and third ones, and fourth, as many as it takes. Outside, Chicago spread beneath the evening sky, millions of lights representing millions of lives. Somewhere among them, a restaurant owner was deciding whether to give up or try once more. Somewhere else, a parent was counting change and wondering how to make it stretch. And somewhere in between, two unlikely friends sat in a worn vinyl booth, planning ways to make the space between falling and rising a little smaller for everyone else. Jenny brought their check, and both reached for it simultaneously. Rock, paper, scissors, Victoria suggested, laughing. Just this once, Marcus agreed. He threw scissors. She threw paper. As he paid the bill, Victoria watched the late-night crowd, her eyes soft with something that looked like peace. You know what I realized? She said as they prepared to leave. That night, when you gave me your dinner, you weren't just feeding my body. You were reminding me how to be human. You were always human, Marcus said. Just lost for a while? We all get lost sometimes, but not everyone gets found. She pulled on her coat, still designer, but worn more casually now. Not everyone gets a burger when they need it most. They walked out together into the Chicago night. The air was crisp, carrying the promise of snow. Marcus's car, a reliable sedan bought with his first bonus, sat next to Victoria's Driverstown car. Same time next month? Victoria asked. Wouldn't miss it, Marcus confirmed. As he drove home to Sophia, Marcus thought about circles, how life seemed to move in them, bringing you back to places you'd been, but as a different person. 6 months ago, he'd been drowning, working himself to exhaustion just to keep his daughter's head above water. Now he was helping others swim, and somehow that made his own journey to shore feel worthwhile. His phone lit up with a text from Sophia. Dad, I finished my homework. Can we watch a movie? On my way, baby girl, he texted back. Pick something good. 20 minutes later, he was home. Sophia curled against his side as they debated between superhero movies and nature documentaries. She smelled like cherry shampoo and microwave popcorn, and her breathing was easy, unencumbered, the new health insurance covering her medications without question. Dad, she said during a commercial break, are you happy now? Like, really happy? Marcus considered the question seriously. Sophia deserved honesty. Always had. Yeah, he said finally. Not perfect. Happy. Still miss Mom every day. But good. Happy. Helping. People. Happy. Watching. Movies. With. My girl. Happy. Good, Sophia decided. Because you smile more now. Real smiles. Not the fake ones you used to do. Kids saw everything, Marcus reflected. All those nights he'd come home exhausted, forcing cheer he didn't feel, she'd known. But she'd loved him anyway, trusted him to find his way through. Hey, Dad, Sophia added. That lady you work with, Miss Sterling? She seems nice. You should invite her to my school play. Maybe I will, Marcus said, ruffling her hair. Now pick a movie before I choose one of those boring documentaries about fish. Not the fish, Sophia laughed, grabbing the remote. As the movie started, Marcus let himself sink into the moment. This, his daughter's laughter, a warm home, work that mattered, friendship born from unexpected kindness, this was wealth, real wealth. The kind you couldn't lose to market crashes or medical bills. The kind that multiplied when shared. His phone buzzed once more. Victoria sending a photo of the old menu from Mickey's Diner. For the new conference room, her message read, "To remember where good decisions come from." Marcus smiled, texting back a thumbs up before turning off his phone. The movie played. Sophia provided running commentary. And outside their small apartment, the city hummed with its endless chorus of dreams and disasters, falls and rises, endings that were really beginnings in disguise. 5 years had passed since that rainy October night, and the American National Bank's Community Development Initiative had become a model for financial institutions nationwide. Marcus stood at a podium in the grand ballroom of the Chicago Hilton, looking out at an audience of 500 small business owners who'd received funding through the program. "Every one of you," he said, his voice carrying easily through the room, "represents more than a loan approved or a business saved. You represent communities held together, families supported, dreams refusing to die." In the front row, Sophia sat tall at 15, her volunteer badge marking her as one of the youth mentors for the program. She'd spent her summer teaching financial literacy to kids in underserved neighborhoods, turning her father's stories into lessons about resilience and smart choices. Victoria watched from the side of the stage, no longer the hollow-eyed woman from the diner, or even the driven CEO from 5 years ago. She'd found balance, still ambitious, but tempered with wisdom, still powerful, but anchored in purpose. "When we started this program," Marcus continued, "someone told me we couldn't run a bank on kindness. That compassion had no place in a balance sheet, but every one of you proves otherwise. When we invest in character, in community, in second chances, the returns are immeasurable." Applause filled the room. Marcus caught sight of Maria Gonzalez in the third row, her restaurant now thriving and employing 15 people from her neighborhood. Behind her sat James Park, whose food truck fleet had grown from one broken-down van to 5, serving fresh meals in food deserts across the city. After the speeches, the networking reception buzzed with energy. Marcus moved through the crowd, shaking hands, listening to stories, remembering why each face mattered. These weren't numbers on a spreadsheet, they were lives interconnected, lifting each other. "Mr. Lawson?" A young woman approached, nervously clutching a folder. "I'm Elena Vega. I wanted to thank you for approving my bakery loan last year." Marcus remembered her application, recent culinary school graduate, no collateral except ambition and a grandmother's recipes. Traditional banking would have dismissed her instantly. "How's business?" he asked. "Growing. I'm actually here to ask about the expansion program. I want to open a second location and train other young people from my neighborhood." "Set up an appointment with my office," Marcus said warmly. "We'll make it happen." As Elena walked away beaming, Victoria appeared at his elbow. "You know we can't approve everyone who asks," she said quietly. "No," Marcus agreed, "but we can try to understand everyone who asks. There's a difference. 5 years, and you still sound like a philosopher instead of a banker. 5 years, and you still pretend that's not why you hired me?" They shared a comfortable laugh. Their friendship had evolved from crisis-forged connection to something deeper, mutual respect, mixed with genuine affection. They'd been through board battles together, fought for every dollar allocated to the program, celebrated victories, and mourned the failures they couldn't prevent. "I have news," Victoria said. "The board approved the national expansion, 20 cities by next year." Marcus felt his chest tighten with emotion. "That's your doing," Victoria finished. "Your vision. Your persistence, your insistence that banking could be about building up instead of just building wealth." "Our vision," Marcus corrected. "None of this happens without you taking that first chance." Speaking of chances, Victoria's expression shifted, suddenly uncertain. "I've been thinking about that conversation we had last month, about loneliness, about moving forward." Marcus knew where this was heading. They danced around it for years, the connection that went beyond friendship but remained unspoken out of professional boundaries and personal fears. "Victoria, I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations," she said quickly, "promoting Davidson to CEO. I'll stay on as chair, focus on the foundation work, which means," she took a breath, "which means we wouldn't be working together directly anymore." The implications hung between them. No more professional barriers, no more reasons to keep their relationship carefully contained within conference rooms and charity dinners. "That's a big change," Marcus said carefully. "I'm 63, Marcus. I've spent 40 years building kingdoms. Maybe it's time to try building something else. She met his eyes. If you're interested. Before he could respond, Sophia appeared with her phone. Dad, they want a picture of all three of you. You, Miss Sterling, and me for the Foundation newsletter. As they posed together, Sophia between them, Marcus felt the strange symmetry of the moment. His daughter, healthy and thriving, inspired to serve others. Victoria, transformed from the broken woman in the diner to someone who'd redefined what power meant, and himself no longer drowning but helping others float. The camera flashed, capturing a moment 5 years in the making. Later that evening, after the crowds dispersed and Sophia had gone home with friends, Marcus and Victoria found themselves back at Mickey's Diner. It had become their tradition. Every major milestone ended here, in the place where it all began. Jenny, now the night manager, didn't even ask for their order anymore. 2 burgers, 2 fries, 2 coffees. Simple food in a simple place, grounding them in what mattered. I meant what I said earlier, Victoria said, stirring sugar into her coffee. About building something different. Marcus reached across the table, taking her hand. I know. It won't be simple. The press will have a field day, billionaire CEO, and her reformed charity case. Let them, Marcus said firmly. We know the truth. Everyone who matters knows the truth. Which is? That kindness isn't weakness. That falling isn't failing. That sometimes a burger given freely can change everything. Victoria squeezed his hand. When you put it that way, besides, Marcus added with a grin, I'm hardly a charity case anymore. Do you know what heads of national banking initiatives make? Less than they're worth? Victoria shot back. But she was smiling too. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the late-night rhythm of the diner. A taxi driver grabbed coffee to go. A nurse coming off her shift ordered pie. Life in all its ordinary glory, continuing its endless dance. Your wife, Victoria said suddenly. Do you think she'd approve? Of us? Marcus considered carefully. Elena believed in moving forward, not just moving on. She'd want me happy. She'd want Sophia to have as much love in her life as possible. He paused. Your son, what would he think? Victoria's eyes misted slightly. David always said I needed to learn the difference between being successful and being happy. Took me losing him to finally understand. She wiped her eyes with a paper napkin. He would have liked you, would have loved what we've built. Then maybe that's our answer, Marcus said. Honor them by living fully. A philosopher and a poet, Victoria teased. But her voice was thick with emotion. Jenny appeared with a piece of pie, unordered but welcome. On the house, she said. You two have been dancing around each other for 5 years. About time you figured it out. They laughed, sharing the pie like teenagers on a date. Outside, Chicago sprawled in all directions, a city of second chances and unexpected connections. Somewhere out there, another single parent was counting change. Another executive was realizing success felt hollow without meaning. Another act of kindness was waiting to echo forward in ways no one could predict. I have a board meeting tomorrow, Victoria said eventually. My last one, as CEO. I have site visits in 3 neighborhoods, Marcus replied, checking on our newest loan recipients. And then, Marcus smiled, we figure out what comes next. Together, they left the diner hand in hand, no longer the desperate woman and the exhausted cook from 5 years ago. They were architects of hope now, builders of bridges between having and needing, falling and rising. At his car, Victoria paused. That night, when you gave me your dinner, did you think about saying no? For about half a second, Marcus admitted. Then I saw myself in your eyes, the trying to hold it together look, the pride fighting with need. I couldn't walk away from that. Thank God for half seconds, Victoria murmured. And for cold October rain, Marcus added. And overpriced diner burgers. And whatever cosmic force puts the right people in the right place at the right moment. Maybe it's not cosmic, Victoria suggested. Maybe it's just human. The choice to see each other, really see each other, and act on what we see. Marcus kissed her then, soft and sure. 5 years of careful friendship blooming into something new. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. Same time next month? Victoria asked, echoing their old routine. How about same time tomorrow? Marcus countered. And the day after? And the day after that? Ambitious, Victoria laughed. I like it. As they drove away in separate cars, but toward the same future, the diner's neon sign flickered in the rearview mirror. Mickey's, where desperate meets kind, where falling meets rising, where a burger freely given could transform into a love story 5 years in the making. The epilogue wrote itself in smaller moments. Sophia's high school graduation, where she gave a valedictorian speech about the power of compassion in economics. She'd already been accepted to Northwestern, planning to study business and social work, a combination that surprised no one who knew her story. Marcus and Victoria's wedding, held not in a grand ballroom, but in the community center built by CDI funds, surrounded by hundreds of small business owners whose lives they'd touched. Jenny from the diner made the cake. Maria Gonzalez catered. It was less society wedding, more family reunion. The 10th anniversary of the Community Development Initiative, now operating in 50 cities, having distributed over $1 billion to small businesses traditional banking had ignored. The ceremony was held at Mickey's Diner, which had been designated a historical landmark, not for its architecture, but for its role in starting a movement. Victoria, stepping fully into grandmother mode when Sophia had her first child, teaching the baby about compound interest while feeding her mashed peas. Marcus, joking that it was never too early for financial literacy, secretly delighted at the family they'd assembled from broken pieces. But the truest epilogue lived in smaller moments still. Every Thursday night, when the expanded board of the CDI met to review applications, Marcus still asked the same question: who are we missing? Who needs help but can't ask for it? The ghost of his own desperation transformed into systematic compassion. Every Friday morning, when Victoria taught financial literacy at a women's shelter, remembering nights she'd spent in similar places, too proud to stay long but grateful they existed. Full circle, but spiraling upward. Every time someone, somewhere, chose kindness over caution. Every time a small act echoed forward in ways the giver couldn't imagine. Every time someone fell and someone else, against all logic, reached out a hand. The burger cost $12.95. The meal Victoria Sterling never forgot. The moment Marcus Lawson changed 2 lives with 1 choice. Proof that sometimes the smallest gestures carry the weight of futures, that kindness compounds like interest, that grace arrives in the most unexpected packages wrapped in wax paper, served on a cracked plate, offered by tired hands to tired hearts in a failing diner on the wrong side of town. Some might call it chance, others might call it fate. But Marcus and Victoria knew better. They called it what it was: the revolutionary act of seeing someone else's hunger and choosing to feed it, even when your own stomach is empty. The radical mathematics of love, where giving multiplies rather than subtracts, where less becomes more in the alchemy of open hearts. Every month, on the anniversary of that October night, they returned to Mickey's. Same booth, same order, same grateful recognition of how far they'd come. And every month, they watched for others, like they'd been the tired parent counting change, the fallen executive wearing yesterday's pride, the human being one kindness away from a different story. They'd leave extra large tips, buy a meal for a stranger, pass forward what had been given to them. Small acts, barely noticeable, but they knew better than most how the barely noticeable could become the unforgettable, how a moment's compassion could echo through years, through lives, through the ever-expanding ripples of human connection. The world kept spinning. The rain kept falling. The diner kept serving its simple food to complicated people. And somewhere, always, someone was learning what Marcus learned that night: that the last meal you give away might be the first meal of a bigger life than you ever imagined. That's the hidden economy of kindness, the secret knowledge that what goes around doesn't just come around. It comes around transformed, multiplied, carrying stories and building bridges, and reminding us that we rise not in spite of each other, but because of each other. 1 burger, 2 lives, infinite echoes. And the story, like all the best stories, never really ends. It just keeps beginning, one small kindness at a time. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that the smallest acts of compassion can change everything, don't let it end here. Click that subscribe button now and join our family of souls who believe in the power of human kindness. Tomorrow, we have another incredible story that will restore your faith in humanity. Until then, remember, you never know when your simple act of kindness might be the miracle someone desperately needs.